So in the last module, we discussed what is the meaning of homotopy and the homotopy version of the lifting problem. A lifting data implies the lifting problem means the map has lifting property. If the map has lifting property with every space, such a map is called a Hurewicz fibration. This much we had done. Similar to that, somewhat dual to is the question number 2, which we want to now put in a homotopy theory. Okay, the homotopy theoretic version of the same problem, question number 2, extension problem. Remember, in the extension problem, very closely associated was the quotient problem, factorization problem, which was very easy set theoretically. So we are taking only the extension problem here. So start with a map from A to X. So this is the map which we are concentrating upon. Now suppose we have the following data. There is a homotopy from A cross I to Y and a map from X to Y such that this eta composite G or G composite eta, whatever you want to say, is the starting point of this function f of A0 for all A in A. Such a data is called a homotopy extension data. What does it mean is that think of A as a subspace of X. On the subspace, there is a homotopy of a function which is defined already on X. You take the restriction, that is G composite eta. So that has a homotopy F, the starting point. Okay, this is the data. Now what is the conclusion? We say eta has homotopy extension property with respect to Y. If for each such data, there exists a homotopy H on the whole of X cross I to Y, such that when you restrict it to A cross I, it is the homotopy that has been already given. And the homotopy is not of arbitrary map, it is the given function G. H of X0 is given. So there is a homotopy of the extended map which extends the original homotopy. So that is the homotopy extension property. Once again, I will represent it by schematically so that you will remember what is the meaning of this one. Okay. Before that, I have a definition here. If this happens for every homotopic data, extension data, then eta will be called a co-fibration. There we call it as a fibration P from E to B. Here A to X we are calling it as a co-fibration, indicating that this property is somewhat dual to the property of being fibration. Okay, so let us look at the figure here. So A cross 0 to X cross 0, you have the function. Function is from A to X. A cross 0 is a copy of A, right? X cross 0 copy of A. So eta cross 0 you take here. On X cross 0, you have another function G. So this part is just a function A to X and a function X to Y. On this part, you have a homotopy of this function, the restricted function, eta, the G composite eta, on A cross I. That's homotopy. So this triangle is the given data. This is always given. Eta is there, so eta cross I, A cross I to X cross I, and this X cross 0 is contained in X cross I. This part is nothing strange. What is given is this triangle. Okay, this is always there. This triangle is given. Now, the conclusion of this one is that there is a map here from x cross I to y, a dotted arrow. Okay, so this map is, when you compose it with theta cross I, it is f. So you can think of this as inclusion, then this will be the restriction of h. And x cross 0, the starting point, is the given g. So whenever you have this diagram, there must be a map here which fits the diagram like this. Then it is called homotopy extension property. If eta, this map, has homotopy extension property for every data, whatever y is, whatever g is, whatever f is, then it's called a cofibration. Okay. Once again, you will say this is too much to expect. No. The beauty of these things are they are almost always satisfied. Or what you may say that whatever interesting spaces come, they will have this property. Okay. So that is why both these properties, fibrations as well as cofibrations, are the part and parcel of algebraic topology, right? In the beginning, you should grasp them, what is happening. Okay. Having set up these two problems in the homotopy setup, we should now study the homotopy a little deeper, right? So let us do that one now. What are called as homotopy types. We had already homotopy classes of functions, maps, right? Now we want to do them on spaces. Start with two topological spaces. You know what is the meaning of they are homeomorphic. There must be homeomorphism between f from x to y, right? Namely, there must be g from y to x, which is inverse of f, which is both continuous. F is continuous, g is continuous. That is a homeomorphism. So we want to take a weaker equivalence here, namely homotopy equivalence. What is that? So a map is called a homotopy equivalence if there is a g from y to x such that instead of G composite F being identity, it is homotopic to identity. Similarly, the other way composition, F composite G, must be homotopic to identity of Y. So instead of equality, we are replacing it by homotopy. Such a thing is called homotopy inverse. G will be homotopy inverse. The point is, there may be many G which satisfies this property. Yet, the homotopy class of G is the only one. If at all it exists, there may not be any. Given any function, there may not be any inverses, right? But if the inverse exists, the homotopy class of that is unique. Okay. So you can call that class as the inverse of the class F, homotopy inverse. Okay. Whenever there exists such an F from X to Y, which is homotopy equivalent, we call X is homotopic to Y. Like the function F is homotopic to G, is now the space X is homotopic to Y, or X and Y are homotopy equivalent, or they have the same homotopy type. So all these terminologies are used. Okay. Again, using lemma 1.1, remember that, namely compositions of homotopies, you can go on verify if X is homotopic to Y and Y is homotopic to Z, then X will be homotopic to Z. every space is homotopic to itself because identity map is a homotopic equivalent, inverse of itself. If F is homotopic to Y, its inverse will give you Y is homotopic to X and so on. Okay, so homotopy equivalence is a equivalence relation. Therefore, we can give equivalence classes. Each class is a homotopy type. Okay. Once you have that, suppose X and Y are homotopy equivalent, then for every space A, the set YA and the set XA will be in bijection. So this is also a consequence of lemma 1.1. Keep using that compositions, and compositions are associative. Similarly, all functions from B to X, okay, are in 1-1 correspondence with all functions from B to Y when you take homotopy classes. The functions themselves may not be in 1-1 correspondence. When you take homotopy classes, there is a 1-1 correspondence. How is it given? Take a homotopy F from homotopy equivalence F to Y, compose it with, suppose you have a map from Y to A, compose it with F, you get a map from X to A. To go back, you compose it with G. You will go back because G composite F is an identity. That is the word. Okay, so these things are all straightforward following of our remark after the lemma. Lemma 1.1 is 2.1 is not, that's not correct. Anyway. Now we make a special definition here. Anything which is homotopy type of a single point. The single point doesn't have much properties, topological properties. So we want to single it out. So such a thing is called contractible space. Okay. Up to homotopy type, there is no difference between any contractible space and a single point because they have the same homotopy type. So all the homotopy theoretic properties will be the same. So such a thing is contractible space. A map F from X to Y, which is homotopic to a constant map, we should also do for maps also. No? Such a thing is called null homotopy. A constant map will not have much properties. Okay. If you compose with a constant map, that will also become constant map. Whichever way you compose, post-compose or pre-compose, once one of them is constant map, the composition is a constant map. So that kind of properties first, the trivial properties have to be first understood carefully. So there are some easy way of identifying what is a contractible space. Let us go through that one, okay? This is the theorem. This is the first theorem of the course actually. Following conditions on a space are all equivalent. The first condition is X is homotopy equivalent to a singleton space, which is, we have named it as X is contractible. That is the first one. The second, the identity map of X to X, it is null homotopic. The third one, every space Y and every map from H to Y, H from Y to X is null homotopic. All functions taking values in X, they are null homotopic. Every space Z, every map from H from X to Z, it's awesome. Everything which is a domain of the function is X, that's also homotopic. So both domain and codomain, okay, as a domain and codomain, X is behaving very nicely. That is precisely what I've told you. If you pre-compose or post-compose for a function, it will be constant map. And that is reflected here in the spaces. Whether you start from X or you end in X, if X is contractible, such maps are all null homotopy. So these are the characteristic of point space. And up to homotopy, they are the characteristic of contractible space. So that is the gist of this theorem. All right. So being a mathematics lecture, we should examine this thing carefully and study the proofs also. All right. Proofs are very easy. Let us go through that. So let us first prove 1 implies 2. What is the meaning of that? I assume X is homotopy type of a single point. Then I want to show that identity map of X is homotopy to a constant map. That it is homotopy type of a single point means I'm taking Y as a single point space. F is a map from X to Y, and G is a map from Y to X. What is Y? Y is a single point. They are homotopy inverses of each other. Okay, what does it mean? G composite F is homotopic to identity. Okay, and G composite F is what? See, first you start with G, single point. Sorry, first you start with F from X to single point, then G to X. Where does it go? Single point only. G composite F is homotopic to identity by definition, but G composite F is a constant map. So identity is homotopic to constant map. So that is the conclusion too. Okay, so 1 implies 2 follows. Now let us prove 2 implies 1. Reverse. Reversing is also very easy here. Okay, given that identity is homotopic to a constant map, let us call that constant map C to C. Let us name it as, it is a map from X to X because it is homotopy to identity. So let us call it as C to C. The image of C is a single point. So let us call that as Y. Then we can view C as this function as a map from X to single point. Because the image is single point after all. This is subspace of Y, subspace of X, but I will call it as Y. So now let G from this one be the inclusion map. Take the inclusion map. This is a subspace of X. Okay. Then what happens if you compose with G, C composes G. G is a constant map. C is a constant map. That will be the identity of the constant map. Identity of the single point. Start from single point, you come back single point. Moreover, we are given that G composite C, the other way around, is homotopic to identity. But G composite C is C. Thus, we have what? C is a homotopy equivalence from X to single point. Okay, so which means X is contractible. So we have got a map X to C is to single point. That itself is a homotopy equivalence is what we have proved. Okay, so X is contractible. So 1 implies 2, 2 implies 1 is okay. The 3 and 4, as I have told you already, they are built in automatically. There is no problem. You go to single point and then keep composing. Okay, 2 and 3 are equivalence of 2, 3 or 2, 4. They are very straightforward. Let us have some examples now. Euclidean space R, R square, R cube, they are all contractible. In fact, they are all vector spaces. So, what happens? You can join lines. The joining lines is joining any 2 points by straight lines. That is the way to get homotopies. More generally, inside a vector space, you can take a convex subset. What is a convex subspace? Given any 2 points x and y, inside the line segment between x and y. So x and y are vectors, right? So t times x plus 1 minus t times y will give you the line segment. That line segment should be entirely inside A. Then you can take that as the homotopy. Okay, that is the whole idea. So all convex subsets are contractible. In fact, we can generalize it to what are called as star-shaped subsets. Namely, take a subset S, it's called star-shaped if there is one point S naught, such that every other point S can be joined to this S naught inside S, which is the same thing as saying that the line segment S naught to S is contained inside S. In this case, S naught is called an apex of S. This is definition for star-shaped sets. Then all that I do is I will define a homotopy S cross I to S. In the beginning, in the starting, it is identity map. At the end, it is the single point S naught, the constant function S naught. So I have S naught here and the identity here. S goes to S naught is the first one. S goes to identity of S itself is a second map. I just join them. T times S naught plus 1 minus T times S. When T is 0, it is S. Identity. S goes to S. When T is 1, no matter what S is, it is S naught, the single point. So obviously, this is a continuous function. This is just a linear combination of, scalar multiples and adding, subtracting, and so on inside a vector space. So all these things I am talking as a Rn. You can have Rn or Cn or any vector space. This will be true. So this will give you homotopy of the identity map to the constant map. If identity map is homotopic to constant map, our theorem 1.1 will tell you that the space is contractible. Okay, so we have a picture of what is a star-shaped set is here. This is the 3 lines meeting at 6 point. That point is S naught. You take any point inside this figure, you can join it to that point by a line. The line segment will be completely inside the picture. So you can take a point here, this line segment is here up to here. To take a point here, for example, of course the point itself is not there. So there is no question of the point, the 2 points must be there. So if this is S is one, any other point must be inside this one, then the whole line segment is there. So such a thing is called a star-shaped set. Okay, this is the star-shaped set inside R2. Okay. Let's have one very important example. This will give you a sequence of spaces, pairs of spaces. They are not homeomorphic to each other, but they are homotopic to each other. This time I am not giving you things which are homotopic to constant map, homotopic to a single point. They are not contractible, but the 2 spaces are homotopy type same. Okay, so what are they? For each n greater than or equal to 0, you take the unit sphere Sn in Rn plus 1. For example, when n is 0, what is this? This is R, this is S naught. S naught is what? What are the unit vectors inside R? Plus 1 and minus 1. Okay. When you take R equal to 1, n equal to 1, you have in R2. In R2, what is the unit sphere? Unit S1 S1, a circle, set of all unit vectors inside R2. Okay, so what we are doing is throw away the 0 from Rn plus 1. Sn is inside, included inside. This is a subspace of that. The unit vectors are never 0. So this is a subspace. So this eta is an inclusion map. We are going to show that this eta itself is a homotopy equivalence, which is homotopy inverse mu, which is very nicely given, namely take any vector, divide by its norm. So that is a map mu. This mu is homotopy inverse of the inclusion map. One way is clear, namely you take a unit vector, think of this as a vector here, non-zero vector here. If you divide by the norm, it will get same vector, because norm is already 1. So that means mu composite eta is actually identity. Okay. What you have to show is eta composite mu is homotopic to the identity of Rn plus 1 minus 0. So this is what you have to show, right? So that is this homotopy. See, whenever you can actually write down homotopy, it is nothing but joining the 2 points. So this is identity x, this is x by norm x. So I am joining them. 1 minus t times x plus t times x by norm x. The point here is that the right hand side will never be 0. Therefore, this entire thing is taking place inside Rn plus 1 minus 0. Why? Can you tell me why? Because take any non-zero vector to start with, x is non-zero vector, then x by norm x is also a vector in the same direction. They are on the same ray emanating from 0. Open 0. 0 is not there. Open ray emanating from x. So when you join these two, the whole line segment, it will be away from 0. Okay. So this is the homotopy inverse of the inclusion map. All right. This example you have to understand very clearly, because there will be modifications of this one. This will keep coming again and again. A homeomorphism is definitely a homotopy equivalence, because F composite G is actually equal to identity, G composite equal actually corresponding identity of the corresponding spaces. So if you have some maps such that, x and y are not, so some spaces such that x and y are not same homotopy type, then they cannot be homeomorphic. Okay. So this is one of the effective way how algebraic topology, how homotopy theory is employed. Okay. So how to determine whether two spaces have same homotopy type or not? This is our fundamental question. This is answered in various ways by cooking up different algebraic or algebraic topological homotopy invariants. Okay, just like we did in point set topology, if something is a T1 space, other is not a T1 space, they can't be homeomorphic. If something is a T2 space and the other one is not a T2 space, it can't be homeomorphic. So similarly, you have to cook up various invariants, topological homotopy type invariants. Every homotopy invariant is also topological invariant. There is no problem. But there are many topological invariants which are not homotopy invariants. We have already seen one here, namely Sn and Rn plus 1 minus 0. They have the same homotopy type. Okay. they are not homeomorphic, it's very easy to see. How?